Welcome to Engage Presents. I'm Engage co-founder and president Jake Olson. In this interview series, I ask Engage talent the most common questions we hear from event planners to help you get to know them and their stories in 15 minutes or less. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Engage Presents. I am Jake Olson, and I am joined today with a very special guest, Sheryl Ziegler. Thank you so much for coming on today, Sheryl. We really want to know who you are and what takeaways would an audience get after hearing you.
Awesome. I'm happy to be with you today. I am Dr. Sheryl Ziegler. Like you said, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And, what I really specialize in is interesting is I really started off specializing in children and families. I'm a clinician, so I am here in my office and, I see kids and families. However, what happened was I wrote a book, Mommy Burnout, and I really tried to diagnose and label a condition that I was seeing in moms. And so I wound up really studying stress and chronic stress and burnout. And then that book came out. And did well, and people in the mom circles, parenting kind of stuff were interested. However, when the pandemic started in 2020, pretty immediately, like truly about 14 days in kind of things, very quickly, I started getting requests in general from companies, from organizations, from nonprofits, from business groups, large, small, just saying, can you talk about burnout? And so I really have pivoted. Well, I still do that, if somebody wants it, but what I really focus on with all of these great companies that I get to work with is having a wider audience that relates to things like stress, chronic stress. We're bringing mental health more into the workplace now. I get a lot of questions around how do we then talk about it? Okay, so we're kind of introducing it, or we're doing a wellness week now, or oh, I see a sign up now in a break room somewhere that says, we have something called EAP benefits, things like that. And so what I do is I come in and basically on different levels help companies either just give them an hour of education on the top mental health conditions that are impacting workers, because you're an employee or a worker when you're at your job, but you are also whatever you are, a partner, a spouse, a parent, a mom, a dad, when you're outside of it. So I feel really lucky because the audience has gotten bigger, but the issues really are the same. And so a talk with me is either going to be really mental health focused, and that's what the company wants, and that's what they're promoting, or it's going to be focused sometimes on leadership, what they can do to support the people that are working with them and for them, and how can they really model positive science-based tips and policies, and what do they need to do in order to be more supportive. So I feel really lucky because I get to take what I've been doing for a very long time as a psychologist and now really just helping people on different levels, from managers, leaders, like I said, nonprofit groups, to really bring mental health and mental wellness into their workplace for the ultimate goal of having happier workers, less turnover, really saving a lot of money in really being able to keep workers. Retention is a huge issue. And so being able to keep workers because they really are actually being addressed in kind of a holistic way. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do.
Very cool. Very cool. So if you were to be talking to an event planner, what would you want them to know about kind of how it is to work with you? What do you like pre-event? What do you like on stage? Kind of your vibe, your I guess whole demeanor kind of throughout the speaking process.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure everybody's got their own personality and nuances. So I think what I am known to be, which I think is kind of funny, but I'm known to be easy to work with. People always say like, "Oh, you're so easy to work with. It's such a pleasure," and all those nice things. So those are all really nice things. But I think what it's really like to work with me is I do a pre-call with anybody that I'm working with that I'm coming to do a talk for. And we usually spend anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. Really, I'm asking a lot of questions at that point. I'm saying, what's the culture? What are you really trying to get out of this event? What if somebody, had a great experience, what would be their takeaway? So I really like to dig deep into just finding out, are you having a big Are you hiring a ton right now and people might feel really overwhelmed? Or are you laying people off? And that always has, a really negative impact on morale. So I'm really trying to assess the company, what they do. Are they growing? Are they getting smaller? So I do that piece, and we do that on our call. And when I'm done with that call, I really create a custom presentation. That is one thing about me. You will never hear me say the same exact thing twice, or have even the same slide deck. It is custom created. I have, of course, things that I am an expert on, and I talk about those things, but I really try to tailor it. I think that's something that's probably unique about me. And then once I'm at the actual event, I want to spend, any opportunity and time with employees, with the leaders, whether it's before or after. I really want this to be an experience that you don't just go, oh, that was a good speaker, and then we move on. I try to get people engaged, even if it's a large keynote in a ballroom. I still ask usually, can we have microphones set up? Can we have people asking questions? I don't want to speak at people for 45 or 50 minutes. I really want people to be able to just raise their hands or go to a microphone and ask me a question or engage with me. To me, those are the best talks, the ones in which people are able to ask what they want to know or get clarification on something. I think those go really well. So I'm very encouraging of that. So I think that's the flavor and the vibe. I have a lot of energy, and I think in general I'm positive, and optimistic, and try to give people tangible takeaways. That's always a request. Like, we want something to come out of this that's actionable, and so
When
I always try to end with that.
speaking to that, what is kind of your favorite feedback to get from an audience member, shaking hands or meeting them afterwards?
Oh, that's my favorite part, is talking to people afterwards. My favorite feedback truly is not actually about me, is about hearing what their takeaway was. Because they'll come up, right? And they might ask a question. Sometimes people come up, it's almost 50-50. Sometimes people will come up and just say, always very nice, like, wow, that was really great. I had never thought about blah, blah, blah. I'd never thought about trauma in the workplace. How many people have, either PTSD or acute trauma response in the workplace, let's say. That's really helpful. And so I love to hear that. And then there's a lot of times where people will just get really personal too. And they'll say, when you were talking about caregivers and how much of the workforce is actually in the sandwich generation of caregiving for their kids and for their aging parents, I really resonated with that. I never thought about how that impacts me at work. I mean, I'm just doing what I'm doing. So I love to hear their stories, and I always literally leave with them. I incorporate them, whether it's in my own work or the next talk. I just really like to take in the kinds of things that are resonating with people. So I just love feedback, and I love talking to people.
That's a great idea to do that. All right, last question. This is more of a fun one for you. Given you talk about stress,
Mhm.
is the most stressful engagement you've ever, been on, or you've, from a flight standpoint, hotel standpoint, turnaround standpoint, what's the most stressful trip you've been on, given it's been a speech?
Yep, I'll just tell you the most recent one. This is funny. So I did a talk, and it was this past fall, and it was a big one. And there's two funny things. So their person that went before me, right? They had, for some reason, they sort of had us like almost like two keynotes back to back. And the person that went before me is like got the most insane resume, accolades, every single solitary Ivy League school you could attend, that you could research at, have a lab. Like, this guy had it all going on. And so he goes before me, and he actually, I mean, he's brilliant and all that, but he was talking really, really fast, and he
Mhm.
actually was a little nervous. And so then I went, and when I got off, like, he looked at me and he was like, wow, like, you really know what you're doing. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know. I don't think it felt like that when I was going. So here I am feeling like so humbled, right? That this guy says this. Oh, that's so great. Okay, great. So then we realized we have a flight time, like around the same exact time, and we're both leaving. So he's like, you want to share an Uber together? And I was like, okay. So we share an Uber. We get there. Now we're going through the line. And this is where you start to see people's stress responses, right? Like, I'm still very calm. And he's getting a little worked up about like this line's taking a long time, the security did the, and so we go through it and I'm still like feeling good. We're about to say goodbye. And then I looked at him and now it was my turn to be stressed. And I was like, oh, and he's like, what? And I go, I forgot my laptop in the ballroom. I literally left it on the stage, like it was plugged in. And now my brain was like, I want to actually kind of freak out, but
Oh,
this guy thinks I'm so calm. And
oh
I
no.
so I actually like I was so proud of myself. I did keep myself, I was like, okay, so I think I'm gonna say goodbye right now. And I'm gonna call the and I was like talking, saying he's like, you sure? Because I can stay with you. And I was like, no, because I need to freak out a little bit. So I was like, okay, no, bye. And then he left. And then I called and they're like, oh my gosh, it's right here. And they overnighted it and it was really nice.
That is great. That is an awesome story. And hey, you know what? Put practice what you preach, right? And that's exactly what you did, Sheryl. So thank you for that. And again, thank you for joining us today for Engage Presents. We are honored to have you on our platform. And again, we hope that this only encourages others to view you how we view you, which is a very special speaker. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for working with me and all the help and support. I just feel so grateful that I get to talk about mental health and stress management with people, thousands of people all over the world. So it means the world to me too. Thank you.
You're doing great work. All right. Thank you. Keep in touch and stay tuned for more with Engage Presents.